A few weeks ago, Bondora published its financial figures for 2024. As I took a close look at the numbers and the results, I was able to make some very interesting observations. Bondora communicated some insightful figures that had never been published before. The topic of portfolio quality is more relevant than ever, and there is also a theme that runs like a common thread through the annual report. Before we take a look at the 9 most important takeaways from Bondora's annual report, I would like to address a personal request if you want to support the future existence of this channel. In order to become more independent from affiliate commissions, you can now support me via buymeacoffee.com, either with a one-time donation or even with a monthly membership. So if you find this channel worth supporting financially, please check out the available options after this video. In August 2024, Richard Gronefeld and Raimondas Berniunas joined Bondora's now 5-member supervisory board. In response to my inquiry, it was confirmed to me that the new restructuring of the supervisory board was also carried out in preparation for the upcoming application for a banking license, for which specific criteria set by the European Central Bank must be met. This includes that the majority of the supervisory board members must be independent from the company and that the members must demonstrate extensive leadership experience in the banking sector. By now, most investors should be aware that Bondora is already aiming to become a banking institution for several years. According to Bondora, this step will help to achieve greater stability and gain additional trust. Furthermore, it will facilitate expansion and the introduction of new products in Europe. In the past, I have often criticized Bondora for a certain lack of transparency. The criticism mainly referred to the lack of information about investor assets under management and the performance of Bondora's outstanding loan portfolio. Surprisingly, the annual report is now providing some crucial insights as far as how big the Estonian platform actually is. According to Bondora, the platform is currently managing an outstanding loan portfolio of 600 million euros. For context, this makes Bondora the second biggest peer-to-peer platform in Europe, only behind Mintos, which has 650 million euros in outstanding loans. Some confusion may come up when looking at the investment balance, which is stated to be only 567 million euros. This number refers to the total sum of all investor funds, including both already invested amounts and uninvested balances on user accounts. In response to my inquiry, Bondora explained that this structure is intentional as investor funds are secured by a larger loan portfolio, which also helps to explain the often questioned risk buffer, which reportedly stood at 33 million euros at the end of last year. In 2024, Bondora reached a milestone of 1 billion euros in funded loans 16 years after the operational launch of the peer-to-peer platform. The rapid pace of this growth is also evident in the fact that more than a quarter of it was added just in the past year. In 2024, 147,000 loans worth 262 million euros were funded through Bondora. This represents an increase of around 30% compared to the previous year, when 81,000 loans worth 202 million euros were funded. Last year, Bondora funded nearly 60 million euros more compared to the previous year. Accordingly, revenue has also increased by nearly 20% to now 52.6 million euros. Management fees contributed 26.8 million euros, additional services accounted for 15.1 million euros, and 9.5 million euros came from commission fees for loan brokerage. Geographically, the Finnish market recorded the largest revenue growth with an increase of 5.5 million euros. For the first time, the Scandinavian market at 48% was larger than Bondora's domestic market, Estonia. Meanwhile, the Netherlands grew fourfold to 3.5 million euros, while Spain saw a revenue decline of 800,000 euros. With a profit of 1.2 million euros, Bondora has now been profitable for 8 consecutive years. A strong achievement that barely any other peer-to-peer platform in Europe can match. When asked about the future profitability targets, Bondora stated that they will not disclose those numbers publicly. Instead, the company outlined its ambition to secure a leading position in the industry, which will be measured by both profitability and consistent growth. Bondora has been profitable for 8 consecutive years. However, in light of the current annual report, it should be noted that the profit decreased by 64% compared to the previous year. A look at the income statement reveals that this is primarily due to the expenses from doubtful receivables, which increased by 8.8 million euros compared to 2023. This is perhaps the most important part of the entire annual report, especially since I have warned several times in the past about potential issues of the loan book quality. To clarify, expenses from doubtful receivables refers to impairments on receivables from borrowers where a default appears to be likely. Potential reasons might be increased loan defaults, a more conservative assessment of default risk, new regulatory requirements, or changed assumptions about repayment probabilities. According to Bondora, however, the increase in doubtful receivables was due to a one-off accounting adjustment. This reportedly involved a retroactive adjustment of expected credit losses on Bondora's own fee receivables, not on investor loans. The platform explained that this measure was taken as part of preparations for the banking license and the transition to an enhanced IFRS 9 model. Bondora also expressed great confidence regarding more efficient debt collection processes, particularly in the Finnish market, where a 50% improvement in recovery rates was observed over the past 12 months. According to Bondora, default rates have also reportedly declined across all markets. So, according to Bondora's explanations, there are currently no immediate signs of increased credit risks. Nevertheless, investors should continue to be careful and closely monitor the development of default rates and recoveries from collections. As in previous years, Bondora continues to have a very strong balance sheet. The equity ratio is now at a strong 71%, and the debt-to-equity ratio has also remained consistently low over the years. The liquidity ratio is quite impressive as well, with a factor of 3.45. The only exception is that intangible assets have now increased to above 10% for the first time. In response to my inquiry, Bondora explained that this approach is also part of the overarching effort to align the accounting practices with those of regulated banks. Although Bondora achieved a net profit of 1.2 million euros, the equity position has hardly changed compared to the previous year. A look at the changes in equity also reveals why, as Bondora repurchased 1.2 million euros worth of shares last year. The reason for this is also tied to the application for a banking license. As Bondora explained in response to my inquiry, a smaller and more consolidated ownership structure helps to simplify the application and approval process in the future. The share buybacks were also not directly related to the employee shareholding program. According to Bondora, no further buybacks or capital measures of this kind are planned for the time being. And finally, here is another interesting observation that I have found in the notes. In August 2023, Bondora invested 50,000 euros in the Estonian fintech company Flowstep Design. As a result, Bondora currently holds a 1.32% stake in the company, which specializes in UX design. Since the company seemed familiar to me, I did a bit more research and found out that the CEO and co-founder of the company is Matt Clanahan, a longtime employee of the Bondora platform with whom I had frequent contact in the past. When asked about the motivation behind this investment, Bondora shared that the investment is strategically aimed at fostering innovation, supporting promising ventures, and advancing entrepreneurial success stories from within its own team. Since it is only a 50,000 euros contribution, the actual value of this investment is rather low and modest. Nevertheless, it's still quite interesting to observe that Bondora is financially involved in the new projects of its former employees. And now let's move on to a final conclusion. One thing became evidently clear to me while reviewing Bondora's annual report. The Estonian peer-to-peer platform is consistently aligning its operational activities with the requirements of a banking business. Whether through changes to the supervisory board, adjustments to the ownership structure, or other regulatory standards that need to be met in the future, the company is all in on becoming a banking institution in the coming years. From an investor's perspective, the development towards more compliance and transparency can only be seen positive. The ongoing topic of portfolio quality should remain on the radar for investors though, who wish to sustainably earn a return of 6% via Bondora Go and Grow. That's a wrap for today's video. If you would like to see more content like this in the future, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video. So long. Bye bye.